I find a lot of consultants have this strategy whereby they they believe that the right thing to do is to get embedded in the client's organization. Become indispensable, make the client rely on them, so the client keeps paying them forever and ever and ever and ever. And I think the logic is in the interest of continuity and not having to get new clients. If you have two or three or four of these clients that just keep paying you over and over and over again, that's somehow good for business. Am I getting that right? Is that what people believe?
That's what people believe. Absolutely.
And you disagree?
I do disagree. You'd almost think when you hear that they just want to have a job, right? They want to move to employment.
Many of them would rather have a job if they could get paid as well.
Yes, exactly. Now, let's be clear. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having an exceptional relationship with a client with whom you do work on an ongoing basis, or you do different projects for. I think the difference and the nuance that we're talking about is the notion of just, being part of their organization and carrying on week after week after week versus delivering true value that may happen in more than one stage.
Would you call that a consultant? Just to play with terminology for a moment, would you, somebody who's just embedded and they're putting in 10 hours a week for years, is that a consultant, or would you call that something else?
I'd call them a contractor.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
The legal agreement might be consulting, but that's really a contractor. So therefore, what's a consultant? What's the other model?
Yeah, so a consultant is someone who delivers value and solves a problem. And, I think a simple way to think about this is with a start date and an end date, right? I'm going to walk into your business and I'm going to accomplish something, right? I'm going to work with you on something. I'm going to do something. We're going to get to an end state, whatever that is. And we're going to do that within X number of days, weeks, months. That is you delivering a solution as a consultant. Now, there could be a second problem to solve, right? There could be a next level to take it to. But if you're going to go in and scope out where you're going to land, I believe you're much better off with a very clear scope and a very clear timeline than you are just hanging out and becoming part of the business.
I mean, even from a pricing perspective, right? If you're just going to go in and do some things for an indefinite amount of time, chances are you're billing hourly. And therefore, you are likely undercharging significantly. Whereas if you were able to scope a specific project with consequences, right? If we achieve this project, these things happen, these goals are accomplished, these metrics move, and therefore all of those outcomes can be quantified. Now that project becomes likely more expensive than the time that you would have spent simply executing on tasks. I really like the way David C. Baker talks about this. He mentions this idea of the amount of time that you spend with a client is inversely related to the level of your expertise. So in other words, the more expertise you have, the less time you should spend with clients, and the less expertise you have, the more time you're likely spending with clients. And to me, what I take away from that is a few things, but most importantly, this notion that if your expertise is really that rare and that scarce and that valuable, there should be lots of demand for it, whether or not you've capitalized on that demand. There should be lots of demand for it. And therefore, why would you want to spend, months or years embedded in a single client when there's so much more transformation that you can create for other clients in the marketplace?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would also suggest that, personally, just to expand on what you're saying, so much less fulfilling, right? What you're signing up for if you're planning to just embed yourself is kind of a slog, because what it means is you're not likely stopping to, really celebrate what's been accomplished. It means that you are sort of moving from one thing to the next. You're probably getting random stuff thrown at you, and you're not in a position where you're continuing also to elevate the reputation that you have even within that organization. If you go in and do a bang up job within a specific period of time, people notice, right? That's when the organization says, okay, hold on a minute. This Ahmed guy, we really want him to do something else for us, right? We want him to take this to the next level, or we want him to focus on another slightly different problem or same problem in a different area of the business, because we know he can do it. And we're now even more sure than when he came to us in the first place that he's the guy. He's the guy we need, right? He's the guy we want. That is a very different like reputation building strategy than just hanging out in what eventually becomes your office.
Well, I lived this reality, right? In the earlier stages of boutique growth, I effectively sold myself as a fractional director of marketing and made this exact mistake. And in the beginning, when I first started working with a client, it was amazing transformation. Every conversation was valuable. They were thrilled by the experience. They were seeing firsthand how much value is being created, and then it tapers off, right? And then by month 1, 2, and 3, fantastic. 4, 5, and 6 still pretty solid. By month 9, 10, 11, it's like, oh, it's you again, right? Right now, it's like the value exchange starts to taper off, and eventually most clients are going to start to wonder, do we need to keep paying for this?
Yeah.
Right? Does it still make sense to keep going here? And that's something that frankly I had to learn the hard way, right? And many people have experienced that unfortunate phenomenon where a client says, well, I think we need to hit pause, or it's time to part ways, and it's like you never saw it coming, but didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you see it coming? Like, did you think it'd go on forever?
Yeah. Well, and the question I would ask is, what reason do you want the client to be using to keep you around, right? Is it just because of habit? Is it because of some sense of loyalty? Or is it because, wow, every day that you walk into the building or that you get on a call with them, they know that something great is going to happen?
Yeah.
To me, number 3 is infinitely better than either of the first two for so many
Well, I
reasons.
expected loyalty. I remember a specific client
Yeah.
when I was running this model, and I got the email, got to hit pause, and then I called him up, and it was a partner in a firm, and he said, look, I'm sorry, I wanted to keep working with you, but I got partners, and they wanted to go a different way or whatever it may be. And my immediate reaction was, how loyal are you guys?
Yeah.
Like look at what we've done together for the past year. Look at the relationship we have. Where's the loyalty? And obviously that was an emotional reaction. And in retrospect, I completely understand the business decision that was made, because the transformation that I could provide to them had taken place. I'd done my job, and now there was less and less reasons for me to stick around.
Yeah.
And I think that the point that you made, Carrie, is really important. If you, let's say to an extreme, get embedded with a whale client and you spend a couple of years with them, well, sure, I'm not saying it's always a bad thing to do and you shouldn't do it. That's not what I'm suggesting. There are obviously circumstances here to consider, but let's say you do that. 2 years later, you have one client to speak to, one example, one case study, one data point. And so getting embedded with a client or a small group of clients really does slow down your progress in terms of positioning. Because if you took those 2 years and you instead worked with 5, 6, 7, 8 clients, well, now you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 case studies, data points, stories to tell. And now your positioning is much more stronger than it would be if you just have the one client story to tell.
Yeah. And I'll take that to something that consultants often think about, right? Positioning maybe not always top of mind, but also capability, right? If you're a consultant, you are out there because you believe that you are the best at solving the problem that you solve. And I'm here to tell you that you've only solved it for one client or 2 clients. You're by definition not the best, right? You have not been tested enough. You've not had to, adjust your process enough. You're not at a place where, even you will be able to confidently go out and say, I am the one, right? I am the best person to solve this problem for you. So I think, absolutely from a positioning perspective, also from the perspective of just gaining expertise.
Our business is a pretty good example of this, right? And so we've now graduated, I don't know the number, but it's over 1,000, and we don't really cite a specific number because I don't think anyone's calculated it recently, but chances are it's like 1,100, 1,200 clients through 90-day pipeline at this stage. And, I always tell people that uh, we're not geniuses. We've just done a very large, over 7, 8 years,
Mhm.
a very large volume of work in this space. You don't need to be that smart to, to observe the patterns with that kind of volume and that kind of data set. And so it's to the point where, to your point about capability, I, no consultant could ask us a question at this stage that we haven't heard before. And sure, there's particulars and circumstances to consider, and the answers are often different, and the advice is usually unique. But there's nothing we haven't seen before, nothing we haven't heard before. And just imagine as a consultant what it would be like to be at that position where you've heard it all before, you've seen it all before, you've observed the patterns in a way that nobody else in your market has.